Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and today we're going to go through and rank all of the running back rooms in the SEC. Now, this is not a ranking of RB1s, right? This is not just the top guy. I'm factoring in the depth of that room, really going 3, sometimes 4 deep to really assess the caliber of the totality of that running back room, because obviously just one guy is not good enough. Right, you got to have that stable of depth behind your lead back to really be elite in the running game. So let's just go right through this. We'll go 1 through 16 and waste no more time. Starting off at number 1, my top running back room in the SEC is Texas. Now, before I go any further, the only reason that Missouri is not number 1 is because Ahmad Hardy got shot. If I was certain of the status of Ahmad Hardy, they'd be number 1. But for right now, for me, it's the Longhorns. And Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers both coming over in the portal. Brown from ASU, Smothers from NC State. That's one of the best running back duos in the country, period. Right, you have the ground and pound right down your face of Raleek Brown. Hollywood a little more east to west, a really good receiving threat. But also behind those two guys is Derek Cooper. He's a 5-star true freshman that the Longhorns have here. Cooper's bigger than both Raleek and Hollywood Smothers as a true freshman. So he'll ironically be maybe the most punishing guy they have coming in, as RB3. And with that whole Texas offense that has such dynamic passing weapons now, adding Cam Coleman in the portal, an offensive line that is much more experienced than it was last season, I think these Texas backs are going to have an incredible year. So partly in credit because of the team around them, but also just how talented all 3 of those guys are and how good I really do believe Derek Cooper can be as a third option behind those 2 stars. So number 2 here, this is where I have Missouri, because even with uncertainty around Ahmad Hardy, they're still just the room behind him is so good. Right, so Ahmad Hardy's a given at the top, assuming he's healthy. But then Jamal Roberts are at number 2. Roberts would be running back 1 on most teams in the country. He's just stuck behind Ahmad Hardy right now at Missouri, and those two form a crazy duo. But they also portal up Zyshawn Edwards, who is a name that not many people know. He had an explosive year last season. So Missouri's running back room, like Texas's, it really does go 3 deep. And you have those 2 studs in Hardy and Roberts, who in a perfect world where Hardy is healthy and is able to come back, they'll have the bulk of the carries. Edwards will be able to come in and take a drive or 2, right, whenever just one of them needs a break. So we know that a Hardy can be a Doak Walker winner. He totally could be. Roberts really would be too if he was an RB2. This Missouri running back room is one of the best in the country. The only reason, once again, they're not my top is because I don't know how healthy Hardy is. Then number 3 in the SEC, I have the Florida Gators. This room is led by Jaden Ball, who broke 1,000 yards last year, really set the tone as a true freshman 2 years ago, and we thought he might hit the portal. He was linked to Texas actually, but he's staying in games with John somewhere else, so he'll be the workhorse of that room. But the depth behind Jaden Ball this year for Florida, I think, is way better than it has been in the past. Duke Clark. He was there last year, carried the ball sparingly, but he was a former blue chip guy, and they portaled in 2 guys, in Evan Pryor from Cincinnati and London Montgomery from ECU. Both of those guys can really be home run hitters, but also physical backs. So now you have a running back room in Gainesville that goes 4 deep with guys who could really, you'd be comfortable with any of those guys carrying the ball 12 or 15 times a game. But luckily for Florida, none of those guys were going to have to do that. Jaden Ball likely will, but all 4 of those guys can take less carries per game, so they can be healthier, have fresher legs. I think the depth of that Florida running back room, going 4 deep, really is way better than most of these rooms that I'll talk about today. So for all those reasons, I've got the Gators at number 3 in the SEC. Then number 4, this is where I have Ole Miss. Keelan Lacey is arguably the best running back in the entire country, not even just the SEC. He leads that room, and then behind him, they bring in Mekhi Frazier from Michigan State, and they bring up Joshua Dye from Southern Utah, who almost had 2,000 rushing yards last season. Now, why I have it at number 4 is because the depth there is good with Frazier and Dye. It's not quite as good as the top 3 rooms, but why I'm so excited about it for Ole Miss is because last year, Keelan had to carry the ball over 300 times. And he was so good. But that many carries, you saw it catch up to him. He was banged up throughout the playoffs. Really not effective in the second half of that game against Miami. Now with so much more depth here in Mekhi Frazier and Joshua Dye, he'll be able to carry the ball less and probably have a better year because of it. So, Ole Miss is being led by Keelan. They couldn't really drop below that 4 spot. Their depth is just not, it's not a question for me. I believe in their depth. It's just not quite where those other 3 rooms are. So I've got Ole Miss at 4. Then at number 5 is the Georgia Bulldogs. It was really hard to have Georgia as low as 5 because of how good this room can be. They bring back Nate Frazier, who can be their lead guy, that workhorse. And they have Chauncey Bowens back as well, who was an underclassman last year. He really showed off some serious explosiveness when he was given the rock. And they bring over Dante Dowdell, who is a transfer from Kentucky. Now, his numbers weren't awesome last year, but his yards per carry was good. And he was in a Kentucky offense that frankly just wasn't very effective. Right, so now he's going to be in a better running back room, a better overall offense, and it's kind of hard for me to predict at this point whether Bones or Dowdell like 2 or 3. I think Nate Frazier will be 1, and then you'll just have Bones and Dowdell as 2A and 2B, just kind of splitting the rock there, making sure that nobody has too many carries, because Dowdell will be the biggest guy in that room stature-wise, but he really is also very fluid east to west. I think that all 3 of these guys for Georgia are very dynamic and they're very versatile, so I've got them up at number 5 in the SEC. Then at number 6, here's where I have the LSU Tigers. Now, I think the room is going to be led by a transfer. Dylan Jones comes over from Wisconsin. He had a very strong year last season, and now I do believe in this LSU offense he can elevate his game even further, but there are 2 returners for the Tigers here. Harlem Berry, who was a 5-star freshman last year, really showed some promise, some flash when he did get carries. He returns, and so does Caden Durham, who had a really good year as a freshman 2 years ago. He hasn't quite hit those heights again, but I do believe that in the running back room now, with Dylan Jones, with Harlem Berry, and on an LSU offense that has so many weapons out wide, so many elite receivers, that the defenses are going to have to respect that and not really able to load the box. All 3 of these guys should have, favorable matchups, favorable numbers in the box to really get a great yards per carry all season long. So this LSU running back room, there's not really that superstar end, at least at this point, which is why I haven't done it 6, but I do believe that they can have a really, really good year because of how that LSU offense lines up. Obviously, Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss, we saw it last year, they know how to scheme up a good running game, so this Tigers running offense should be very, very effective. And at number 7, I've got the Vanderbilt Commodores. They bring back their top 2 guys from last year in Cedric Alexander and McKillen Young. Now, Cedric is more of the bowling ball guy, right? He's quick, he's fast, but he's much more violent. He's much more wear down the defense guy. MK Young had over 9 yards per carry last year. He's an incredible east-west threat. They're true home run hitter. He's one of the most explosive guys in the country coming out of the backfield. So those 2 guys are great. But they also bring in Evan Hampton, who is a true freshman out of Kentucky. He was the Kentucky Gatorade Player of the Year, had a stupid senior season in high school. I think he can provide pretty much immediate depth and support to those top 2 guys. So obviously it's led, Cedric and MK are a big reason why this ranking was pulled up for me. But Evan Hampton as that 3rd guy, as that depth piece, I believe is going to, not surprise people, but really be a name that pops up on radars very early on this fall. To number 8 now, I've got the Oklahoma Sooners. And Oklahoma's running game last year, it was not good. Like, it was really really a weak point of that offense, which was just made worse because Mateer's hand was hurt. But it wasn't. I'm not ready to blame the running backs for that yet because the offensive line was a little bit poor. But just going through this room right now, and it kind of has to be better this year. Xavier Robinson, he comes back. Torrey Blaylock, he's also back. So you have really your top 2 running back options who are back in that backfield. They bring over Lloyd Avant from Colorado State as a depth piece. I have plenty of belief in the talent of those Oklahoma running backs. I have them at 8 because I'm yet to really see them be a dominant unit. But I do think that Robinson and Blaylock can be a great 1-2. Avant will be a great depth piece. They're at number 3. And as long as that O-line is better and Mateer's hand stays healthy and just Mateer as a whole is healthy, to have a more threatening passing game, the running game for Oklahoma should take a big step forward this year from last year. At number 9 now I have the Tennessee Vols. And this stretch right here between like number 8 and number 11, this is just a situation where really good running back rooms are ranked low just because of how much quality there is in the SEC. But these next 4 or 5 teams can really be in any order. For the Vols, led by Deshaun Bishop. He comes back for another season after a really good campaign last year. And then behind him is Don Morris and Javin Gordon. I think that both those 2 guys, they're not household names yet, and they won't be next year because we're behind Deshaun Bishop, but they're both really explosive players, right? And you're in a Tennessee offense this year that will be breaking in a new quarterback in either George McIntyre or Faison Brandon, has elite receiver options, one of the best receiving cores in the country. So the boxes will be pretty light. All these running backs will have good options, and in the Heupel sort of, power run scheme, I think it's going to be very effective for all 3 of these guys. They all fit that archetype really, really well. So Tennessee's running back room is 9 for me. Then at number 10 is the Auburn Tigers. I got a lot of pushback from Auburn fans when I first put them out here, and it's really not meant to be disrespectful to that room. It's just there's so much running back talent in the SEC, but Auburn is led by Jeremiah Cobb. He returns. He's their bell cow guy. He has proven that he can be a bell cow workhorse back. That's very good to have. They bring over Bryson Washington, who comes over from Baylor. He had a really good year a few years ago. Last year wasn't quite the same numbers-wise, but that was injury-related. I believe he can have a great year as well. And Nakai Davenport is also in that room for Auburn. He comes over from USF with Alex Golesh. So even though he has the familiarity, right, he's coming up with the coaching staff in that same scheme, I do believe that Davenport will be the 3rd guy because Jeremiah Cobb is the bell cow and Bryson Washington just has more consistency, a bit of better stature. So I think that those 3 guys for Auburn are going to be very, very effective. My question about it really is, is Auburn's passing game good enough to open up the running game? Can Byron Brown be consistent enough? Can he take that step to other running backs to really get free and cook him? Because the talent is there. but I do believe that Auburn's running offense just might not be as good as some of the other teams that I have just ahead of them. Next up here is Texas A&M. And this feels really low for the Aggies just because of how good that team profiles to be. But there's just so much depth in this conference at running back for A&M. They're led by Ruben Owens, former five-star guy who's been, he's been banged up throughout his career, but he's back again. This could be his best year of his career. And then behind him, Jamarian Morrow and Tiger Ryden. Those are both younger guys who aren't really known names. And they're behind Ruben. So that's part of why I have A&M lower, is because of how unproven really those back two guys are. It's Ruben Owens and then relatively some question marks. So that's why I have A&M so far low, but Ruben Owens should have a really good year. I think that A&M's passing offense will be strong. You have to respect the passing game, lighter boxes, let the ground game go. This could be a massive year for Ruben Owens and kind of a prove-it year, show-it year for those depth pieces behind. Next up is the Kentucky Wildcats. It's led by C.J. Baxter. He comes over from Texas. He was a former five-star guy. Didn't really pan out in Austin yet, but at Kentucky, I believe he can really have a breakout year. Then behind him, Javante Barnes and Jason Patterson. Now, this Kentucky offense as a whole is kind of a wild card to me just because of how much portal ads there are. I'm very high on their potential. And with Will Stein calling the offense, he's the head coach, not officially the OC, but I think he'll have his fingerprints all over that offense. So I really trust the scheme to be able to have all three of those guys go. But C.J. Baxter, I believe he can be a stud. We know how good of an athlete he is. Those two guys, same questions I have for both the teams down here. Is your depth proven? If it's not, that's why I've got them rated low. Up next is the Alabama Crimson Tide. This is the lowest Bama is ranked in any position group, and they probably have been for years. There's just no real proven talent. I don't want to say no proven talent. There's no real proven consistent production in this Bama room. It will be led by Daniel Hill, who is very talented, not a ton of experience. Kevin Riley and A.K. Deer, talented younger guys, barely any experience. Xavier Crowell is a true freshman who could make a lot of noise. He was very highly rated as a recruit. And then Trayshawn Brown is in that same boat. But Bama's got 5 names who could be good runners. We just haven't seen it yet. And Bama will be breaking in a new quarterback. There are some parts of that O-line that I'm not sure about. Bama's running game, it's got to take a step forward from last year, you would just think. But their running back room, just for me, nothing really blows me away. So I've got Bama rated pretty lowly, at least by the Crimson Tide standards. Moving to Mississippi State now. They're my next team here. Fluff Bothwell, I believe, is a stud. I mean, he's such a good RB1, but he's kind of all they've got right now. That's why I've got State rated so low. Behind them is guys like Xavier Gayton and Colin Wilson. But both those two guys, I don't really know what they can do in the SEC. Right, I'm not sure what they can really do at this level yet. So Fluff is really carrying this room up. They're my 14th ranked team, so not very high. But I'm very high on Bothwell. The depth behind him, I got questions about. Moving on to team number 15 here is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Braylon Russell comes back to lead that room. They had Mike Washington Jr. last year. He's now gone. Braylon reassumes that RB1 role. And then behind him, Sutton Smith, Cam Settles. Right, guys, I'm not really sure how much I can trust yet at this level. So I've got Arkansas at 15, and then at 16 at the bottom of the conference, I have South Carolina. They have less than 500 combined rushing yards coming back in their RB room. Matt Fuller will be running back 1, followed by Christian Clark and Jawan Howell. It's just so much unknown. It's guys who haven't done it at a high level yet, and I was not sure about it. Now, obviously, with South Carolina specifically, Lenore Sellers is taking some of those rushing yards, and that's fine. But you still need a running back or even 2 who you can really rely on. I don't know if I can rely on any of these guys right now, so that's why I have Carolina down at number 16. But that'll do it. There's all 16 SEC running back rooms ranked. Obviously, there's so much talent in all of these rooms where one guy, if he just takes a big step, he could be a 1,200-yard rusher and just blow whatever I say out of the water. Matt Fuller could have a giant year for Carolina. Fluff Bothwell might be good enough on his own for Mississippi State to be way higher than 14. But the depth of the running back rooms are just so important because of the wear and tear of an SEC schedule. And now that it's 9 conference games a year, that's even more important. So depth was just so important to me. But thank you so much for watching this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. If you have been enjoying all my football preview content, subscribe to me here and follow me on Twitter. I'm doing this every single day until we kick off in August. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.